Welcome back to all of my amazing students and subscribers. This is English is Easy, and today I have a very special lesson prepared for you guys. There is some big breaking news. Donald Trump has won the U.S. presidential election. So today, here's what we're going to do. We are going to learn English through this news story, and here's the plan. First, I will quickly read today's news article to you. This will give you the main idea and will just take a couple of minutes. Then we will have a vocabulary breakdown, taking a closer look at some of the more advanced and challenging language that we saw in the article. After that, we will return to the article for a deep dive, going sentence by sentence to really pick the article apart and make sure we understand everything 100% crystal clear. In part 4 of today's video, we will have a vocabulary quiz to check and see how well you understood the new words, the target vocabulary, and finally, in part 5, we will have some speaking practice. Yeah, a chance to reflect on this huge news story and what it means. If you are ready to get started, click like on this video to support me as your YouTube English teacher. Make sure you are subscribed and leave me a comment down in the comments section. Are you happy that Donald Trump won this election, or was this a bitter pill to swallow? You can let me know down below. Okay, let's get started. Let's begin with a quick read of this news article. So remember, guys, if there is some language, if there are some words that you don't fully understand 100%, that's okay, because we will revisit the article later on in the video. All you need to do right now is relax, listen, and pay attention. Here we go. Donald Trump elected U.S. president for second time. Donald Trump has won the 2024 U.S. presidential election, defeating Kamala Harris. This surprising comeback makes Trump the first U.S. president to serve non-consecutive terms since Grover Cleveland in the 1800s. At 78, Trump is also the oldest person ever elected to this role. Trump's return to the White House has caused shockwaves around the world. His victory shows that many Americans support his populist ideas, despite controversies surrounding his leadership style and criminal charges. Some experts worry about his close ties with leaders like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, which may affect international relations. Kamala Harris, who aimed to become the first woman and first black woman president, focused on issues like reproductive rights and personal freedoms. Her loss was a huge disappointment for her supporters. Still, Trump's win shows that he continues to have strong support from his base, especially among those frustrated with the political system. All right, guys, that was a brief look, a quick look at today's news story. Now, before we go back to that news story, let's take a look at some of the challenging language in the story, like comeback. Comeback. Yeah, that's a noun. Some synonyms or similar words could be return, or recovery, or resurgence. Yeah, this article was talking about how Donald Trump is making a comeback. He has come back. He has returned. He has recovered his previous role. He has had a resurgence in popularity that has resulted in him becoming reelected as the U.S. president. Here are some other example sentences using this word comeback. After years of struggling, the singer made a huge comeback with a hit song. Okay, so this singer, this musician, they struggled for many years, right? If you struggle, then you are not finding success, right? You're trying, but you are not finding success. So for many years, the singer went on like this, okay? But then they made a comeback, and not just any comeback, they made a huge comeback. How? With a hit song. So the hit song, this very popular song, was the reason for the comeback, was the reason for their resurgence of popularity, okay? It was the reason for their return to popularity, we could also say. Here's another example sentence. Many people didn't expect such a strong comeback from the sports team after their losses last season. Yeah, sometimes if you suffer a really terrible loss, a really brutal loss, then it's difficult to make a comeback, right? It's hard to come back from that. We could also say, to use it as two separate words, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to make a comeback. Once more, in our news article today, we are reading about how Trump made his comeback. Yeah, another word that we might not be familiar with that we saw in the article today was shockwaves. Shockwaves. We could also say tremors. That's a similar word. Maybe impact. Maybe aftershocks. Okay, let's jump right to the example sentences. The news of the company's sudden closure sent shockwaves through the industry. Yeah, so a shockwave is a force that is very disruptive, a force that shocks people or surprises people or causes a lot of commotion, causes a lot of excitement or anxiety, or maybe both excitement and anxiety. Trump's re-election has already sent shockwaves through the media and through the political system in the United States and around the world as well. So, in other words, it has made a big impact. It's almost like a big earthquake, right? Sending tremors around the world and shaking things up. Here's another example sentence. Her sudden resignation, or she quit her job suddenly, right? That's a resignation, caused shockwaves among her colleagues or the people she works with. So maybe if there's somebody at work who's really important and they suddenly resign, they all of a sudden quit their job, that could send some shock waves, out through the social circles in the office or in the company or wherever the workspace is, right? In this example sentence, all of the colleagues, the people who worked with her, they were shocked by this news. This news made a big impact on them. Whenever there's a really big news story, it always sends shockwaves through social media. It gets everyone talking about it, just like this news story. Another challenging and really interesting word we saw in this article was populist, which could be used as a noun or an adjective. Okay, some other ways of thinking about this could be representative, commoner-focused, people-centered. If a presidential candidate, if a person running for president is a populist, then that means they are a man of the people or a woman of the people. They are very popular with the people. The populist candidate promised to focus on the needs of ordinary citizens. Yeah, do you see? They're focusing on the needs of ordinary citizens. They make a point of appealing to or speaking to or aiming their messages at the common person, not the blue bloods, not the upper class, but the normal salt of the earth population. We can also say salt of the earth. Yeah, just down to earth could be another way to say that. Down to earth. Yeah, the down to earth common people. His populist ideas appeal to people who feel ignored by traditional politicians. So this is one reason why Trump is so popular, right? Because he is not a traditional politician. He is an outsider. He's an entertainer, right? And he's a businessman. He is a person who built up his career outside of the world of politics. So a lot of people who feel frustrated with the political system will take note of that. They will see that about him, and that's very appealing to them. That makes him a populist candidate with a lot of people. Another word we saw in the article was ties, connections, links, associations. This is a pretty easy one. If you have a tie to someone or something, it just means you are connected to it some way or somehow. You are linked to it somehow. You are associated with it some way or somehow. The company has strong ties with international partners. Okay, so we could also say that this company has strong relationships with international partners, strong connections with them, strong links with them. They are closely associated with international partners, we could also say. She valued her family ties and tried to keep in touch with everyone. Okay, so yeah, she has ties to her family. She has close bonds with her family. We could also say a bond is like a relationship, right? So she has these close links to her family, connections to her family, associations with her family. She really values these ties, okay? She cares a lot about the ties. So what does she do? She keeps in touch with everyone. It means she makes a point of communicating with them, maybe on social media, maybe in a more traditional way with phone calls or letters, but however it is that she chooses to keep in touch with them, she makes an effort to do so because she values her ties to these family members. Now, I thought it would be fun to put a little personal connection question here. Do you have ties to anyone famous? Now, this doesn't have to mean family ties. This could mean friendship ties, maybe a friend of a friend. Are you connected to anyone famous? You can let me know down in the comments. All right, guys, you're doing great. We have one final vocab word before we return to the news article for our deep dive. That word is a difficult word, reproductive. That's an adjective. And what is reproductive? Well, in the article, we were taking a look at reproductive rights, as we can see in this example sentence. Let's just jump right to this sentence. They discussed reproductive rights and access to health care. When we are talking about reproductive rights, we are talking about rights that come along with having children. Maybe that has to do with abortion. Maybe that has to do with health care. Access to medical services, right? Women's health services and health care. This was a big issue that Kamala Harris campaigned on. She campaigned on the issue of reproductive rights. In other words, this was a central part of her message, is she wants women to have access to abortion, access to birth control, access to proper reproductive care. The policy aims to improve reproductive health services. When you see this word, reproductive, think babies and making babies. All right, my dear students, I hope you are still with me because now it's time for the most important part of this video, the deep dive into the news article. So let's jump in and take a closer look now that we are more familiar with some of the challenging language in the article. Donald Trump elected U.S. president for second time. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. Donald Trump has won the 2024 U.S. presidential election, defeating Kamala Harris. So he won the election. He won the contest, basically, a political contest, okay? The presidential contest, the presidential election to see who will be president. He won it. He defeated Kamala Harris. She lost. Now, this was a comeback for Donald Trump. He was president number 45, and now he's going to be president number 47, right? And this is a surprising comeback. A lot of people, for whatever reason, are very surprised by this result, okay? So all of this makes Trump the first U.S. president to serve non-consecutive terms. Okay, let's start with this. If you serve a term as president, that means that you are president for 4 years. A president is elected and then they are in charge for 4 years. Now, what does non-consecutive terms mean? That means not in a row, not one after the other. Okay, he was president, someone else was president, and then he was president again. Someone was in the middle of his two presidencies, right? So that makes it non-consecutive. Now, he's the first U.S. president to have this non-consecutive term situation since this guy Grover Cleveland all the way back in the 1800s. Yeah, a U.S. president from a long time ago. At 78, Trump is also the oldest person ever elected to this role. That's just a fact of the situation, right? When Trump becomes president again, he will be the oldest president ever at 78 years old. Many people think that that is too old to be president. Others look at Donald Trump and they see that he is fit to serve. That means essentially that there is nothing wrong with his fitness, his mental fitness, his physical fitness. They look at him and they think, okay, he's fine. Even though he's old, he's in good shape. We could also say good shape. Trump's return to the White House has caused shockwaves around the world. We talked about this word, shockwaves. It has really caused a tumult. It has really shook things up. It has really surprised a lot of people and caused a media frenzy. Frenzy just means that the media, the news, corporations are going crazy over this news. People can't believe it. They are in a state of shock, a lot of them, right? For some people, it's good shock. For other people, it's bad shock. His victory shows that many Americans support his populist ideas, okay? We talked about this word populist, despite, or we could also say, in spite of controversies surrounding his leadership style and criminal charges. Let's take a look at this for a moment. Another way of thinking about controversy could be a scandal, could be a big news story that people don't see eye to eye on. Some people agree with it, others disagree with it, but it gets people talking and it gets people debating. So there were a lot of controversies surrounding his leadership style, the way he chose to act as a leader, and criminal charges. Some experts or people who know a lot about the subject, they worry about his close ties, his close relationships, his close links, his close connections, right? His close bonds, we could also say, with leaders like Vladimir Putin of Russia and Kim Jong-un of North Korea, right? Some experts look at these relationships and they're not so sure, and they worry about them because these relationships have the potential to affect international relations. Yeah, of course, Trump's relationships with these various world leaders, they mean something, right? The way he interacts with them, his rapport with these people, his rapport with them, the way they get on, the way they interact, their relationships, these mean something. So Kamala Harris was the Democratic presidential candidate. She was the person who the Democrats wanted to get elected. Okay, now what did she aim to do? What political issues was she focused on? Well, she was focused on issues like reproductive rights, women's access to abortion and birth control, and general reproductive health care, as well as personal freedoms. She lost, and her loss was a huge disappointment for her supporters. Yeah, this isn't surprising, right? If Trump lost, this would be a big disappointment to his supporters. When Kamala lost, it was a big disappointment to her supporters. Still, Trump's win shows that he continues to have strong support from his base. We use this word outside of politics sometimes. If we're talking about a singer, we say their fan base, right? Their fan base, their group of people who love them and support them and buy tickets to all of their shows. So this is telling us that Trump's win, his victory, in other words, it shows us that he still has a strong base. Yeah, he still has a lot of support, especially among who? Especially among those people who are frustrated with the political system. Yeah, I touched on this briefly. I talked about this briefly earlier in the video. A lot of Trump supporters are people who do not like the current political system. They want to shake things up. They want a big change in the political system, and they think that a really great way to do that is to get an outsider into the system. Someone who doesn't have so many ties, to use one of today's vocab words, to politicians who are deeply embedded within the system. Moving on to part 4 of today's video, we have a multiple choice quiz to check and test how well you were paying attention to the language that we saw in today's video. Number 1, what is a synonym for comeback? Retreat, recovery, decline, or exit? In 3, 2, 1. The answer is B. Recovery is a synonym for comeback. The football team made a big comeback in the second part of the game. The football team made a big recovery in the second part of the game. Number 2, which word would describe something that causes a big reaction in a group of people? Reproductive, populist, shockwaves, or ties? In 3, 2, 1, the answer is C, shockwaves. We can talk about a news story causing shockwaves. Number 3, which word describes a connection or link between two people or groups? Ties, shockwaves, reproductive, populist. In 3, 2, 1. The answer is A. Of course, a tie is a connection, a link, an association between two people or groups. Number 4, almost done, guys. Keep pushing. If a politician is focused on the interests of ordinary people, they could be called a shockwave, a comeback, ties? No. We all know the answer to this one, a populist. And our final quiz question, number 5, which word is related to the production of offspring? The production of offspring. In other words, having kids. Is it A, B, C, D? In 3, 2, 1. Yes, the answer is C, reproductive. This word is related to the production of offspring. Simply put, having babies. All right, how many of those 5 did you guys get correct? You can let me know in the comments section. Coming to the final part of today's video, we have the personal response. Yeah, a chance to get in some speaking practice because I've noticed that a lot of my students, they don't have many opportunities or chances to speak. Yeah, they don't have people to speak with or environments to speak in. So that's what we're going to do here. And here's a question for us to talk about. Are you a Trump supporter, a Kamala supporter, or neither? What makes you interested or disinterested in politics? So this is what we're going to be responding to. I'm going to go first. I'm going to speak for 30 seconds and give you a demonstration of what I'd like you to try and do when it's your turn. Now, when it is your turn, I want you to really push yourself to talk for the full 30 seconds. If you feel like you've got nothing else to say, reach, find something, keep going, fill up that space. All right, here I go. So, guys, I have to admit that I am pretty disinterested in politics. I don't really follow politics. I don't really care too much about politics. I feel that it is a pretty negative space, and I like my life to be simple. I don't like a lot of noise and news stories in my head, so maybe it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I tend to stay away from politics. That was my response. Now it's your turn. Take that 30 seconds and fill it up. Go ahead. Now, guys, if you're still watching and you found this video helpful, please consider supporting me and my work here on YouTube. There are several ways to do that. Of course, you can like this video. That helps me reach new people. That tells the YouTube algorithm that you liked it, and it sends it to new people who might like it too. You can leave me a comment. That helps with the algorithm as well. You can share with a friend, spread the message of English is easy with Connor. But the most impactful way you can support me is by becoming a channel member. Yeah, for $5 a month, you can become a member. You can get PDFs for all my videos. You can get access to hours of bonus content, and you can make an investment in yourself as an English speaker. If that sounds good and you'd like to become a member, click join here on YouTube or check out my Patreon link in the description of this video. And guys, if you are in the middle of a study session and you want to keep going, keep going. I'm going to put another one of my videos up on the screen. Click on it and I'll meet you there. Let's go.